Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Another twist in the tale of the Toto and Susie Wolff versus the FIA drama, with multiple statements coming out confirming that they will look into legal redress against the FIA due to reputational damage caused over the last couple of days. In addition to this, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the FIA president, has apparently been taken ill and will therefore not be conducting his usual responsibilities at this evening's FIA prize-giving gala. Does anybody actually believe this? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. So first of all, just to break down the story over the last couple of days, the FIA released a press release a couple of days ago now saying that as a result of media speculation, they would be investigating potential compliance violations between Toto Wolff, co-owner at Mercedes and team principal, and Susie Wolff, who is his wife, but also works as F1 director for the F1 Academy at the Formula 1 group. By making that press release, they clearly made it obvious in the public eye that they were doing this investigation, and heavily implied as a result that there was some questionable activity going on by Toto and Susie Wolff themselves. They could have just done this in private. They didn't have to put out that public press release, but they did. They could have reached out to Toto, Susie Wolff, the F1 guys, behind the scenes, just to see if there was anything going on, to check whether the processes that potentially prevent the sharing of confidential information had been upheld, and if they were, they could have moved on. But the idea that they came out publicly with this has been implied by many to indicate a potential political move by the FIA president, especially when all of the Formula 1 teams then came out unanimously to say that they had nothing to do with the start of this investigation, implying that it was a politically motivated vendetta, is the way Mercedes look at it, from the FIA, or just straight up from the president himself. Now, clearly, the FIA, after doing this publicly and getting the backlash they did from the teams and from Formula 1 and from Toto and from Susie, had really no leg to stand on. So they ended the investigation and said, all right guys, yeah, our bad on that one. Just, let's have a good time tomorrow at the prize-giving gala. But of course, that was not where it was going to end, and there was to be further repercussions, especially when Andrew Benson of the BBC says that Mercedes could, and they indeed, I think, will, move to seek redress from the FIA for the reputational damage its actions have inflicted on the company this week. Meanwhile, senior F1 figures are questioning the judgments of FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem. And this is honestly what I think has been going on here, is effectively some sort of, at least a no confidence vote from the teams in their confidence that Mohammed Ben Sulayem can effectively lead the FIA and do what's in the best interest of Formula 1 as its governing body. That, I think, is the end goal here, and we'll see exactly how that might happen, at least an indication as to how that might happen here, in a couple of minutes. So Mercedes aren't backing down on this. It's quite clear that they don't like Mohammed Ben Sulayem's, what he's done in that role as FIA president. Neither does Formula 1, neither do effectively all of the teams. It feels like only a matter of time until significant change happens here during the rest of this winter break. Now, that of course was not where it was going to end. There was always going to be more twist in the tale, and this from Susie Wolff. So she put out the statement immediately after the press release comes through, which she calls unfounded. This is what she has to say today. When I saw the statement issued by the FIA yesterday evening to close their investigation, my first reaction was, is that it? For 2 days, insinuations have been made about my integrity in public and through background briefings, but nobody from the FIA has spoken to me directly. I might have been collateral damage in an unsuccessful attack on somebody else, which I guess is her husband, Toto, or the target of a failed attempt to discredit me personally, but I have worked too hard to have my reputation called into question by an unfounded press release. Again, that's the thing. There was no evidence behind this apart from the tabloid newspaper that came up with the article a few days before, but that's tabloid newspaper, it is what it is. Whereas when the FIA, the official governing body, comes out with a statement, that of course is going to be treated with more, people are going to consider that to be more reasonable in terms of who they think might be in the right or in the wrong in this analysis. Definitely reputational consequences for Susie and Toto Wolff as a result of that. They will look to seek redress. We have come a long way as a support. I was extremely thankful for the unified support of the Formula 1 teams. I've worked with so many passionate women and men at Formula 1 and the FIA who have the very best intentions and interests of our sport at heart, but maybe maybe some at the FIA might not necessarily agree with that. However, this episode has so far taken place without transparency or accountability. I have received online abuse about my work and my family. I will not allow myself to be intimidated and intend to follow up until I have found out who has instigated this campaign and misled the media. What happened this week was simply not good enough. As a support, we must demand and we deserve better from our governing body. So who might she potentially be talking about here? Intimidating her? Instigating this campaign, misleading the media? Well, I think there's maybe one man, and well, this is what Toto Wolff has to say on the matter as well. We understand that there is significant media interest in the events of this week. This sounds like lawyer speak, which it probably is. We are currently in active legal exchange with the FIA. So, here we go, baby. We await full transparency about what took place and why, and have expressly reserved all legal rights. Therefore, we will ask for your understanding that we will now not be commenting officially for now, but we will certainly address the matter in due course. So this, I think, is the key one: the transparency, the accountability. The idea that the FIA came out with this statement and they said they were doing the investigation. Who did that? Exactly why? What are the motivations behind it? The feeling of senior Mercedes personnel was that this was effectively a personal vendetta from Ben Sulayem because he doesn't like Toto and wanted to get revenge in some way or another. This may have been the intention. This is when it goes next level entirely, with this announcement coming out of an official FIA spokesperson. We know that Ben Sulayem, the FIA president, typically gives out quite a lot of the awards at the prize gala ceremony, right? As would typically be the case. But with all this going on, he has now been taken ill several days ago. To just keep this in mind as we go through this, for you guys to try and come to your own conclusion on whether you believe this or not. Because let's just get into it. Several days ago, the president took ill and suffered a fall and concussion. He has received care in hospital and will make a full recovery. So, look, taking this at face value, unfortunate. I know that a lot of us disagree with the decisions of Ben Sulayem, but I don't think anyone would wish him harm or, misfortune in this way. So if he is actually unwell and is recovering, wishing him the best. But I'm not so convinced for a couple of different reasons. It's also incredibly convenient, is it not, that on the very day that the prize gala is due to take place, with all the drama around his position and the FIA in general, that he would just happen to be unwell and not really be able to attend or do as much as would typically be the case. In addition to the fact that just the other day, and I shared this video for you guys, he tweeted out the first day of the General Assemblies in Baku. So this prize giving gala is in Baku this evening, and over the last couple of days, there's been general assemblies and other people are going there, they're doing meetings and all this type of stuff. And he tweeted this out, what was this, a couple of days ago? Yeah, 6th of December, this went out onto x.com. And, well, basically it was a video of this. And the video has still been saved. I actually shared this in a video the other day. Here he is, meeting, greeting, saying hello, taking pictures, doing his duties. This came up on the 6th of December, so presumably this was, December the 5th, maybe these videos were taken. Okay, we don't fully know, but you can presume reasonably enough. But apparently, several days ago, he was unwell, had been taken ill, had had a fall, had a concussion. So, but apparently, he was here meeting, greeting, doing his duties just a couple of days ago. So either the several days doesn't really add up, especially when this image, of course, these images, this video has now been deleted because, as you can see, this video has now been deleted. So I wonder why, right? I mean, come on. You put 2 and 2 together and you get 5 when you try and figure out what exactly might be going on here. And this is what I wonder as well about this whole thing. Clearly, there's lots of pressure on Ben Sulayem. Formula One, the teams, nobody is particularly appreciative of the way that he's handled being the FIA president over the last couple of years since it has come into play. And I imagine that even the FIA themselves could be on the brink of some sort of no confidence vote in their leadership, as it were. Is this the beginning of a saga where they say, oh, well, Ben Sulayem, he's had this health scare and therefore he's looking to take some time away from the role, spend more time with his family, and, therefore he's going to be stepping down from his position? I don't know if that's where they're going with this, but would you be surprised if in a few days' time they say, oh, Ben Sulayem, due to this health concern, he's going to be stepping away from his role and somebody else is going to be taking it on an interim basis? I don't know. But if that happens, then, don't tell me that I didn't warn you type thing, that this could potentially be the case. So I think he's still going to be there tonight, but he's going to be in a reduced prize-giving role. So it's like, well, if he's really unwell and has had a concussion, would he really still be there? I don't know. I don't know in his condition. We simply don't know. But it doesn't really add up to me. You guys might disagree. Feel free to let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section below. So with Ben Sulayem AFK or whatever as it were, there was a press conference with a lot of the drivers giving thoughts on the season. And of course, Hamilton was going to comment on what's happened over the last couple of days. Hamilton says the following: a disappointing week really to see that our governing body of our sport that has sought to question the integrity of one of the most incredible female leaders we've ever had in our sport was Susie Wolff without questioning, without any evidence. And then just saying sorry at the end, that is just unacceptable, Hamilton says. He also went on to double down on this even further and say that there's a constant, fight really to improve diversity and inclusion within the industry, but it seems like there are certain individuals in the leadership within the FIA, I wonder, which particular individual you might be talking about, that every time we try and make a step forward, they are trying to pull us back, and that has to change, which basically says, get this guy out of his job, is kind of the heavy implication. He also doubled down even further and said that it's a global sport. We have such incredible opportunities to be the leaders of change. We have a responsibility to move in the right direction on these subjects, and also went on to talk about the fact that it's hosted in Baku, because let's be honest here, there's all this talk from the FIA, from Formula 1 about, oh yeah, sustainability, we're really trying our best to be a sustainable sport, all this stuff, but the FIA is based in Paris, that's usually where they're based. I think Hamilton's point was they could very much easily have done this prize-giving ceremony in Paris, but no, they did it in Baku for whatever reason. I wonder if the FIA is really thinking about sustainability, because so many people have flown here and you're actually just sitting there in Paris where we could have done it all along. So yeah, as Vibes and Facts says, he's not exactly here to make friends, and he's not exactly here to agree with anything Ben Sulayem has done over the last several years. So where do you guys think this is going next? The prize-giving ceremony is this evening. Here's a picture already of Max and Checo and Horner, of course, getting ready to collect quite a few awards they will have been receiving this evening, and typically it would be the FIA president handing them over. That might not be so much the case this evening. It's probably going to be live streamed on YouTube and somewhere like that, so we probably get to watch a little bit of what happens here, but I'm sure there'll be follow-up over the coming days. And as Juliana De Kessa here says, we are seeing a huge response from F1 to the FIA's actions. Not just F1 themselves that commented, all the 10 teams, Toto Susie Wolff, Lewis Hamilton, F1 senior figures, Mercedes senior figures, everyone is blasting this guy, and, well, as he says, which means we are only at the beginning of a winter of important and possible changes. I would say it's probably more than possible right now on Ben Sulayem being out of his role in the near future, but yeah, don't know what you guys think of all those stories. We're going to leave it on that one for the time being. Just to mention before we close out though, some interesting valuations on F1 teams per Forbes. Ferrari, 4 bill, Mercedes, 4 billion. It's interesting that AlphaTauri gets valued here at 1.1 billion. There was an offer, we believe, to Red Bull for $1.2 billion to buy AlphaTauri, potentially Racing Bulls. They said no to that offer. Shame to see Williams, I guess, down it. Okay, look, they're still worth £725 million or dollars, but it's still potentially the least valuable team on the grid, apparently, is Williams, which is interesting. Hopefully, I'm here for the Williams redemption story. Hopefully they can get there. But, I mean, still, it's nearly $1 billion. It's not exactly bad business at the end of the day. There was also a couple of comments from, everyone's been roasting everyone over the last couple of days. This was quite a good one from Fernando Alonso. Any chance this guy gets to throw a dagger in at Alpine, obviously he's going to take the opportunity to do so. So he was asked the question about, Alpine versus Aston Martin. What's it like? And he said, at Aston Martin, our priority is to win in Formula 1, not to sell streetcars. Heavily implying, and I'm sure he felt that way as well, that when he was at Alpine, that Alpine, sure, they say all this stuff about, oh yeah, we've got our 5-year plan, we've got our 3-year plan to win races, to win championships, and it never actually happens. They don't commit the resources required. And are they just there, do they rebrand from Renault to Alpine to sell their, Alpine line of cars? Sure, that's the way that Alonso feels about it, whereas he feels that Lawrence Stroll and everyone in charge of Aston Martin is actually intending to make them a winning team. They started well this season, but didn't develop as they would have liked to, I'm sure. That's going to be a big question next season, whether they can continue the momentum they had at the start of the season or continue the momentum they had at the end of the season. A similar question really for McLaren, because they made the most progression during the course of the year. And Norris was actually asked the question, are you going to win next year? Are you finally going to get a win? Are you going to be able to put Sochi 2021 behind you? To be fair, this year, Norris was there was a good few races Norris could have won if Max's car had broken down or if Max was just a little bit less good. But unfortunately for Norris, Max is very good and his car didn't break down at all. So Norris got a number of second places this year, but he is confident, 100% confident, that they will win a race next year in the McLaren. 100% yes, because it's going to be next year and I'm with McLaren next year. Because he was asked the question, is your first win going to be with McLaren? And he says, yeah, for sure it's going to be next year. We're so close to it now, which kind of implies as well that Norris is very confident in the work that McLaren are doing behind the scenes right now, the progression they're going to make. It was said shortly before the end of season as well that Norris and McLaren were very confident that given what they know and where they think they can go, they can take that to the next level next year. So we'll see if McLaren can be the closest challenger to Red Bull, because they're definitely in position to give it a go, but yet they can still have races like Vegas where their car just doesn't really work. The Red Bull works everywhere. And speaking of Norris, he secured P3 in the season-long power rankings that Formula 1 put out. So honestly, whenever I see these after a race weekend, I always think, are you sure? I'm not sure I really buy that. But when you average it out, it's actually not too bad. I think it's probably about right. Verstappen wins, obviously. Hamilton second. I think I would have Hamilton, Alonso would be my 2-3. You can probably go either way on the order. Then you've got Norris is there. I think Leclerc could arguably be a bit higher here. I feel like having Albon tied for fourth with Alonso is a bit, okay, Albon did a great job this year, no doubt, but he did have, Logan Sargent wasn't massively impressive, was he? So I think there was always that bit of a buff. And the car was legitimately really good on certain weekends. So I think Albon deserves some credit. I'm just not sure I'd quite have him this high. I know there's also the argument to probably put Sainz above Russell or even with Piastri. I like that Gasly gets some credit here in the top 10 because I think he was definitely underrated this season. Maybe the most underrated driver, actually, Gasly this year, I thought, on the balance of things. So he just about gets on this list. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? I think Leclerc, maybe it's end of season bias saying Leclerc should be higher, but he was spectacular for the last 5 races. But I think the order is reasonably good here. It's not terrible. It's maybe Albon's a bit high. Maybe there's a few other things I'd switch around. But Verstappen P1, Perez nowhere to be found, probably tells the story quite well of the season. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.